What is good, y'all? It's your boy God CEO. Welcome back to Mount Olympus Gaming. All right, so in today's video, we're gonna discuss: do we need pro players to define the fighting game community? Let's talk about it. All right, so the reason why I wanted to bring up this topic and what even led me to this topic was because of a recent post on Twitter, aka X, of Sonic Fox. For those of you who are not in the fighting game community, Sonic Fox is currently one of the best players of fighting games. He played across different fighting games, but notably from the NRS titles. So dating back to MKX, Injustice, and Mortal Kombat 11, and now Mortal Kombat 1, right? So in his tweet, I'm going to throw it up on the screen here. All right, so as you can see in his tweet, he pretty much is talking about, how he wants to drop the game and how he feels that if NRS doesn't make a change, that he will be dropping the game. And then obviously, as you can see here, he's listing his frustrations. So I wanted to talk about this because I'm relatively new to the fighting game community. A little bit about me. I joined this community about the year 2020, halfway into the life of MK11. And prior before that, I was what you will call a casual player. And I had no knowledge of the FGC at all, right? So the term that we hear a lot is pro players, right? We hear this term thrown out a lot, in the fighting game community. So before we dive deep into my thoughts on the Sonic Fox and his opinions, I would just want to have a baseline for everyone to kind of understand what a pro player is, right? So I'm going to give you my definition of what I think a pro player is. A person who can consistently make the most optimal choices and win in a fighting game or any game, right? So that's, in my opinion, what a quote unquote pro player means. But here's the problem that I've been noticing, and I think that the FGC is plagued with. I think that we are plagued with quote unquote pro players thinking they are bigger than what they are, right? So, to put this in a more grounded sense, pro players, you guys just play video games. That's it. You don't contribute to society. You playing the games doesn't help people in real life, okay? It's just entertaining to watch you. So going back to Sonic Fox tweet or post, him saying, pretty much trying to give an ultimatum or trying to put a sense of urgency in NRS or WB Games of saying how if certain changes are not met, he will ultimately drop the game and he's tired of it. And a lot of people on Twitter are reacting to this, and we're having what you will call a herd mentality, right? Where you have the best players saying something, and then everybody's just jumping on the bandwagon and just going along with what he's saying. And now when you look on YouTube and you type in Mortal Kombat 1, you see a lot of MK1 is dying. Is MK1 dying, right? And this goes to the point that I was saying earlier, that pro players think they're bigger than what they are. Because who cares if Sonic Fox wants to drop the game and play another game? Literally, who cares? That does not affect anything in anyone's lives, right? Could you make the argument that he's a pro player, so he must have knowledge on how fighting games are supposed to be, and he's currently the best in the world, we should take his opinions? Yes, we should take everyone's opinions, but it doesn't mean we need to agree with them nor deem it as it's right. You're just a guy who plays games and who's frustrated with a game and wants to play another game. When you look at the side from NRS, right, objectively, They have currently, right now, MKX, MK11, and Mortal Kombat 1. You can go on any one of these games in ranked and find a match right now at this moment while this video is being recorded. If I was to pop in MKX and go into the ranked, I would generally find someone to play within a minute or two. And the same thing for MK11 and the same thing for MK1. Why does his opinion matters that much when all of their titles are currently right now all being played? Now, when I say this, right, it's not to say that each one of those games doesn't have their respective issues, right? We can go on about MK11, MKX as well, but MK1 with the most recent issues with the desyncs and a lot of the redundant gameplay and how the cameos are not living up to the hype of what they've been promoting earlier in the year, right? Player creativity. And those points I agree with, right? I do agree they need to, pretty much give us what they promised. But to go as far as to give a company an ultimatum and trying to increase some sense of urgency, it's just stupid, man. It's I'm just gonna call it how I see it. It's really dumb. And I think this comes from a multitude of things, right? I think this comes from we have a community that has a large amount of the background or the demographics is teenagers, and then you have people like myself that's in their early 30s, and also not to mention the people who are in their 40s and 50s, and people who followed this game, Mortal Kombat, and who grew up with this. We understand that you can have an opinion about things, but to go to the extent of trying to apply pressure to devs, which they are really doing something, they're the ones who are coding, who are spending up late nights, who are legitimately getting paid to do these things and has skills, right? A person who gets fired from NRS can go work for another game studio. They legitimately have skills. So there needs to be a fine line. And this goes into another thing that I wanted to point out, right? Because we tend to deify pro players, these bigger than normal people, right? That they win so many games and everything they say is gold. Just because you're a good fighting game player does not make you a good role model. And the reason why I say role model is because when I entered this community, the fighting game community, I noticed that with Sonic Fox, there was an alternate agenda that was a bit distasteful. So when I put in MK11, Mortal Kombat 1, and I play the game, I'm not thinking about political things. I'm not thinking about someone's sexual orientation, right? I'm not thinking about any of those things. And quite frankly, I don't care. I don't care that if I'm in Combat League, am I playing someone who's a Republican? Am I playing someone who's a Democrat or who's an independent? Or am I playing someone who is gay or bisexual, right? Or a cis person or non-binary? I don't think about none of that. The only thing I'm thinking about is I want to win. That is it. And I don't like how, specifically in Sonic Fox case, is that he takes the rightfully clout that he's earned with, giving us entertaining fights and entertaining tech. And, when we watch him in tournaments, I don't like that he uses that opportunity to deviate from the game and talk about more political stuff. Going back to what I said, we have a lot of young people in this community and they're very impressionable. So that's something that, it's a bit distasteful. And it leads me to question, what is a pro player? Are they truly a pro player? Right? Because if you were an NBA player, a football player, right, in their contracts, they're given specific clause where they have to conduct themselves outside of the sport a certain way. They can't draw unwanted attention to themselves because that would look bad on the league, right? So they tend not to engage in political talk, religious talk, um, any of the hot topics that's very controversial. They tend to just stick to the game, stick to how their performance was, and then they keep it pushing. And whereas we have pro players who do the exact opposite in the fighting game community. And yeah, man, I just have a problem with that. I seriously have a problem with that because pro players, there needs to be a boundary set. And I think that in this community, there is no boundaries, right? You're the pro player, everything you say is gold. And we just take it and run with it. No, it's not the case. And there's some things you cannot say, right? I want to give an example about this. So if you're on the side of saying that pro players, that they are larger than life and everything they say does mean gold, let me give you an example of how fragile that title really is, right? The most famous the most famous beef set that happened, right? We have Sonic Fox against Perfect Legend in MKX, where he 13 0'd him. Now, before that, Sonic Fox he wasn't known as the best player. He was still an up and still making noise, becoming up the ranks, so to say. Right? Perfect Legend was that guy. He was at that time the pinnacle of the best. And then Sonic Fox comes along and that match happens. And in a recent interview on MK Tom's Brady channel, shout out to MK Tom Brady. And if you guys haven't seen him or don't know who he is, search him up on YouTube and look up one of his recent videos where he interviewed Perfect Legend. And Perfect Legend was speaking about, how his life was after that when he would go to offlines and onlines, how the community pretty much was ridiculing him and shaming him everywhere he went. Mind you, this guy can still probably 10-0 majority of the community. But because he lost on that public platform, right, his life, he even says till this day, people still poke fun at him and try to say like he's not a good player or his word shouldn't be respected. And I wanted to bring this up because it goes to show you that this title of a pro player, I don't think it has any weight, because the moment someone loses, right, the entire world will turn on you. And to me, that just goes to show you that you're not that big of a person that you think. We really have to stop with this herd mentality, because the pro player doesn't dictate a game's success. It may highlight the success of a game, right? It may garner some more exposure for the game. But I can tell you right now, before 2020, I've never heard of the FGC. I've never heard of some of these names that's been around. The Justin Wongs, Perfect Legend, some Street Fighter gurus, fighters, some pro players from that. I've never heard of them in my life. You want to know why? Because it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. And I don't understand why we put so much emphasis on what they say, right? They're just regular people who are a little bit better than the majority of the people, and their wins show that. And that's where it should stop. It should not be anything more, right? So going back to another point, right? When it comes to pro players and gaming companies or game developers, I will relate this in another way. So for those of you who don't know, like rappers and liquor, right? Whenever you see rappers such as Jay-Z, I'm going to use Jay-Z because there's actually an example that happened a couple of years ago. Some of you, depending on your age, you may not know, but for those of you who are, who were born in the late 80s, early 90s, you will be familiar with this. Jay-Z was notorious in his videos for popping Cristal, right? That was the drink. A lot of his videos, they had Cristal. He was always, drinking Cristal. And even when Jay-Z opened up the 4040 Club in Manhattan, that's like one of the known drinks that he would had. And there was an interview with the head of Cristal, and the CEO had said, he was asked about that because there was sort of like this rumor going around saying how like, should rappers get like special treatment or special pricing because, they market the product. Everywhere they go, they're drinking they're drinking it is in their music videos. When they go to clubs and they go out to party, they're just buying those. So, and the CEO said something very interesting. He said, well, what can we do? We can't stop people from drinking liquor, but it is unwanted attention. And Jay-Z took that as a racist comment and, boycotted Cristal. Took it off his 4040 Club, started, getting a lot of people on board saying, don't be drinking this. These guys are racist. And I'm comparing this to pro players and game developers because although pro players and the devs go hand in hand, they're not needed. They don't need you, right? It's nice. It may complement it a little bit. NRS is nice for sending out, let's say, like content creators or pro players, things, allowing them to play. But you guys need to remember, they don't have to, and their success is not dictated upon you guys. To wrap this whole thing up, right? Let's go back to answering something we said earlier. Is Mortal Kombat 1 dying? No. I do not believe Mortal Kombat 1 is dying. I believe Mortal Kombat 1 is just losing the race to be known as the best fighting game, right? With its current issues with the desyncs, the lackluster of the cameo system, right? But at its core, MK1 is very fun to play, right? It is still fun. So to say this in other words, do we need pro players to define the fighting game community? No, we do not need them. It is nice to have pro players. It is nice to listen to their inputs on, what they think a character is good or their opinions on tier list. It's nice to have those things, but it is not necessary for the success of the fighting game community nor the game itself. If you guys enjoyed this video, please drop a like, drop a sub, and if you have any type of comments, man, I want to know what you guys think about this topic. What did you think about the points? If you disagreed, hey, put it in the comment section. I want to know because it's the community I want to hear from, right? This is what really matters, the community, not just one person. All right, you guys have a good one. Peace.